Today, we're getting into something pretty wild. Phowa. That's Tibetan for transferring consciousness.
Right. And we're looking at sources that frame it, maybe controversially, as enlightenment without meditation.
Exactly. The art of consciously navigating the moment of death, taking control, basically. But that sounds like a huge claim, doesn't it? I mean, how could someone achieve liberation? You know, something that takes lifetimes for most, right at the very end.
Well, it's a paradox for sure, but Phowa isn't just wishful thinking. It's presented as a very specific advanced tantric technology.
Okay, technology, so it's structured.
Very. It's one of the 6 Yogas of Naropa. That's a major tantric system. Comes from India originally, Mahasiddhas like Tilopa, Naropa.
Brought to Tibet by Marpa the translator.
Exactly. And its whole point is seizing control, you know, dictating what happens after death, not just leaving it to chance.
So steering away from chaos.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The main aim is to bypass the intermediate state, the Bardo, and instead you aim for immediate rebirth in what's called a pure land. Amitabha Sukhavati is the famous one, or Dawakan in Tibetan.
A pure land. So like a better starting point for the next round.
Sort of, yeah. It's considered an ideal environment designed for rapid enlightenment without all the usual obstacles.
Okay, you mentioned technology, mechanics. How does one actually do this? What's the internal map?
It works with the subtle body model. So you visualize your consciousness, your essential self, as a bright point of light, an essence drop, or bindu, usually pictured near the heart.
The bindu, that's the thing that travels.
That's the traveler. And the road, the pathway, is the central channel. This subtle energy channel runs straight up the core of the body to the very top of the head.
Okay, got the path and the traveler. How do you make the journey happen? I remember reading about breath and sound.
Yeah, exactly. It involves specific breathing techniques, powerful contraction, focusing energy low in the body, and then this explosive sound, traditionally H-I-K, it's like a vocal trigger that propels the consciousness, that bindu, straight up the central channel.
But not just anywhere out, there's a specific exit.
Crucial point. You have to mentally seal off all the other potential exits, the eyes, ears, nose, mouth, the lower openings. These are called the 8 impure gates.
Seal them off. Why?
To ensure that consciousness exits only through the designated 10th gate, the fontanelle, that soft spot on the crown of the head. That's the escape hatch to liberation, basically.
Wow. Okay, that's intense. So Phowa is about this vertical transfer, straight up and out for liberation. But you hinted there's a less savory version of this kind of power.
Right. It's important to contrast Phowa with something called Drong-jug. Phowa is vertical for enlightenment. Drong-jug means entering a city, and it's horizontal transference.
Horizontal. What does that mean?
It's the extremely esoteric and rarely taught art of transferring one's consciousness not to a pure land, but into a recently deceased corpse.
Wait, into a dead body to reanimate it.
Essentially, yes. But it's seen as highly problematic ethically. It requires immense worldly attachment clinging to life, which is the opposite of liberation. Because of that risk, the tradition generally holds that the direct lineage for Drong-jug was deliberately broken.
Okay, wow. That's a whole other level. Let's shift back to the dying process itself. The Tibetans have these incredibly detailed maps, right?
Yeah.
The elements dissolving, earth, water, fire, air, and then this dawning of the clear light of death. How does that ancient map hold up?
It holds up surprisingly well, actually, especially when you look at recent neuroscience. There was a really fascinating study in 2022. Right. They monitored the brain activity of patients right at the moment of cardiac arrest, you know, clinical death. And they found this massive coherent surge of high-frequency brain waves.
Gamma waves.
Gamma waves. Those
right.
are linked to higher consciousness, like deep meditation. Exactly. High-level cognition, focus, complex processing, states achieved by very experienced meditators. So finding this huge gamma surge right at death, well, it looks an awful lot like a potential neurobiological basis for what the Tibetans have been describing for centuries as the clear light of death.
So the ancient map might actually be incredibly accurate on a phenomenological level.
It really suggests that, yeah, that these aren't just metaphors, but descriptions of a real, final, possibly hyper-aware state.
Okay, so let's tie this together for everyone listening. Phowa presents death not as this passive fading away, but as potentially the ultimate act of spiritual agency.
A decisive moment, grounded in bodhicitta, that altruistic wish to attain enlightenment for all.
And it's pitched as maybe a pragmatic path for people today who don't have years for retreat. A shortcut, almost.
You could see it that way. And now, maybe, with some neurobiological echoes suggesting that final state of awareness is indeed profound.
Which leaves us with a pretty deep question, doesn't it? If this practice actually works, training the mind to navigate that final intense burst of awareness right at the end, does the ultimate secret to life actually lie less in how we lived it and more in the kind of technology, the inner technology we have for how we choose to die?